All right, welcome to the podcast. We are hanging out with Maria Chau, co-founder of Zwick's Pretzels. How are you doing, Maria?
I am doing well. How are you?
Awesome. I'm great. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat with us. So I have a million questions. Your journey to where you are now has been a pretty interesting one. But let's just kind of start off with talking about what Zwick's Pretzels is right now. Just describe the company for us.
Right now, so I guess it feels like we've been in 8 years of constant transition. So, like, if you take any sort of cross section, it's always going to feel like we're in the middle of moving towards somewhere else. But right now, we are um, a snack manufacturer, both for soft pretzels and hard pretzel snacks. That's it.
Cool. And you're
Yeah.
based out of Edmonton?
Yes, we are. We just transitioned to a larger facility. So yes, we're still in Edmonton and apparently here to stay for at least a little while longer.
I love it. Okay, so let's kind of start from the beginning. Before you became an entrepreneur, I'll say, you were a lawyer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So growing up, was that something you always wanted to do, is be a lawyer, or how did that kind of? I'm curious. Like, that's a lot of work to become a lawyer, and maybe look into the reasons why you decided to transition into being an entrepreneur after that. So let's start with being a lawyer. What made you kind of follow that path?
I think so. As a kid, I think it was kind of on the radar of this idea of something I wanted to be. As a kid, I didn't really know what anything meant and what it meant to be something and what a
Right.
career was. You just choose from the very limited list that I just chose from the very limited list that my upbringing offered me, right? It was
Right.
very traditional, yeah, lawyer, doctor, whatever it was. And so like, okay, that's what I want, based on, again, a very limited understanding of the world and options, and that there are actually a million ways to succeed and fail beyond what you can even fathom. Like the world is really a wacky place.
Yeah.
And it's like it's like a whimsical wonderland too. So I chose that, I guess, is on the radar just because I imagined like, a suit and climbing a corporate ladder and, skill expression, being able to do something well and be told I did a good job. So that was on the radar, but then I went to school and I went into actually biochemistry because I had an affinity for science. But then, through school and the applications process and everything that happens, and what you just end up doing on a whim, like I had applied to law school just on a whim. Most of um, my friends were applying to medicine, but it was an easy application process. I finished the application because on a whim I had paid the fee to apply. Then I finished it because I had paid, and then I got in. I was like, okay, I might as well do this because this is the best option available to me. And then I went into law school totally not um, prepared in the sense that other people were when they had this idea of what they wanted to be and they had this vision of what it would be like. Their daddy's daddy was a lawyer. So I just kind of got in there like kind of cold, and so I felt a little bit out of sorts culturally because I was not prepared for it. I didn't know I didn't project something of what it wasn't fulfilling any sort of like vision I had, so I was just kind of learning as I went. But I discovered in the course of actually taking the classes that it I loved it. It was very applied compared to kind of the more nebulous science that I was doing, like the benchtop science. Um, so I liked the fact that it was application. Like I went in, I learned about contracts, and I left the class like a totally different like I drove differently after some of these classes. I like the conception of suddenly learning about the law and like the real world and how the government works. Um, I could immediately apply that.
Right.
So yeah, so I enjoyed the courses, and then you just kind of dive in from there. Because I was totally unprepared for that. That was kind of like a marked like the beginning of a career of like, I'll just try this. without any concept of like this is what it's going to be or a plan. So I guess that was the beginning of maybe entrepreneurship, because that was the beginning of me just accepting, like, without any concept or without any idea of what it was going to be. I just took on an opportunity and
Right.
then kind of rode with it.
So how far did you go into law? Like, are you still involved in any way, or how far did you go?
Okay, so I went all, as I do, I went completely in. I was totally drank the Kool-Aid and I bought into it. So I went to like a larger national firm in Edmonton, and I articled there, and I gave it my all. I was working long at like as a student and in my first couple of years. I was the last, the on. I was good with not working like all the days of the week, but like when I was in, I'd be oftentimes the last one out. Even on my last day, I think I was the last one out. But yeah, so I went all in, and I whenever I take on something, I drink the Kool-Aid hard, I guess.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then for various reasons, I just thought that okay, I could see into the future, and the future was just like the office next door, the corner office, but more of the same stressors, more of like kind of, and I don't. It was a fantastic learning, like a learning training ground, and where I could cut my teeth. I took on, they trusted me with a lot of different work. I'm really grateful for the fact that I got to basically learn and work a lot more years worth of work in a short period of time.
Right.
So I got to I got to work as much as I wanted, which was a whole lot, I guess. So um, at some point though, I realized that, okay, well, the future is just more of the same, but then an office next door, like the corner office, and probably it seems like from how I perceive the partners, actually more stress and more, yeah, like more
Yeah.
of the downsides, right? So I was like, okay, I think I want to just see, but I knew that the answer wasn't another firm, right? I understood enough that it's that, it, again, just more of the same. So I just thought, okay, I'll try a different approach to this. And so I decided to go in-house. And so I went as in-house lawyer to a
And sorry,
larger company.
what does
Yeah.
that mean, an in-house lawyer?
Okay, so it is, as opposed to an outhouse lawyer, I guess. You are when you work at a firm, just like with accountants, you can hire the firm, and then the firm will have, and they're basically contracted to you, and the firm is going to have a whole army, a stable of their lawyers, and you're going to get one of their lawyers or a team of their lawyers to work on your product when you hire a firm.
Okay.
When maybe your business model, maybe your business model. You get to be of the size company where, okay, the amount that we spend on our external legal fees justifies us hiring a lawyer to be on
Okay.
staff. So you just have access to a lawyer at all times. They kind of understand your culture. They are an employee of the company.
Right.
And so, yeah, so there's a different risk profile to that. It's a different business. You take on their liability as an employer as opposed to you hiring out a firm and them being liable for, or, them being accountable for their own separate work. Same thing, I guess, with any sort of contractor versus hiring an employee situation.
Right. So for you as a lawyer, was that a less stressful situation, or was that just a different stressful situation?
Uh, okay, I would say that for me personally, it was a total culture shock. It was like I ran into a brick wall. Because the pace suddenly was not the same frenzied, fast pace I had been running. The stress was a lot less because I suddenly like I so sometimes I say that being like when I was at the firm that it's almost like you get all the burdens of entrepreneurship but none of the benefits
Right.
because I'm working these crazy hours. I'm taking like just at that time the overall culture is that okay, this is all on you. It attracts also a certain type A personality that is like hyper accountable and like owns their work and like never wants to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So you go from that environment where you are kind of, yes, there are lawyers around to ask questions, but also you're hyper aware that any question you ask is going to reflect on you somehow. Was that a stupid question? Like, and then they're,
Yeah.
like, oh no, they're gonna give me work. Oh, I have to be real. I have to appear a certain way. So
Right.
suddenly you change. So it's a combination of me changing the environment, but me also growing up and being more comfortable in the environment. So it was a change for me. It was objectively less work, and less stress, I guess, and having to change that mindset into like, okay, we are a team, and there are other people, and you're engaging other people as opposed to just being a lone wolf.
Right.
And yeah, but you're still like, I'm still, and I guess you take on more over time because I spent like 5, 6 years there. You also take on a more strategic, sort of more management role, and also with being in house, that's where um, I got better exposure to business and
Okay.
business law and kind of the spectrum. Before it was like, okay, this is where the lawyer's job ends and this is where the client picks up and carries on with her business. But in-house, it's like I said, a spectrum. At, technically at every stage, you could use legal advice. There's no decision I make right now, almost it feels like, that isn't informed by legal experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I like. I like that idea because a lot of people, when you do it such a big career shift, a lot of people assume that whatever you did before was almost a waste of time. It's just like, well, if
Hmm.
you're going to be an entrepreneur, why the hell did you waste all this time becoming a lawyer? And what I always feel, and what I know from myself personally, my own personal experience, but also talking to so many entrepreneurs, is what you've done in the past is almost always useful for what you're doing in the present. And so you get that, you believe in that as well.
100%. I actually
Yeah.
think that it's actually defining what I do because like for like the biochemistry experience is also very applicable. Like I don't know if I could be doing what I am doing without the experience that I've had in other
Right.
fields.
Right.
So it opens doors, but it's very much um, it creates the opportunity. All of the experiences that you have had, that I have had, they create the opportunities that we perceive, right? There are
Right.
opportunities. I believe that there are opportunities all around us, the more than we can fathom, but they're not on our radar. Like I can't perceive them if I don't have the necessary skill set or the experience. So there's probably a lot of like coding and AI opportunities right now that are just laying here as like low-hanging fruit to someone who has basic AI experience, but they're not visible to me, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
someone else in my shoes can, like, waking up in my bed and every morning, they have a different list of things that they would want to do and the things that they would want to pursue.
Right.
But
No,
yeah, but
I
with
I
yeah,
like that. I like that.
yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about how you went from being a practicing lawyer into kind of being an entrepreneur. My understanding is it starts with a catering opportunity.
Yeah, as an articling student, an important part to law apparently is planning parties. And so I had to plan as a catering student, as a catering student, I was like an articling student. Me and my co-articling student had to plan some social events. And this was before, like there's been in the last 10 years, 15 years, there's been a boom in food, locally and just internationally, probably originally brought on by Food Network and like some more literature, but like that kind of made the profession more of a rock star status. And so it seems almost today to take for granted that good food and really like a lot of options have always been there. But back then, maybe suppose that 2005-ish. So yeah, about I guess 20 years ago, that was not the case. And so I just had to find someone to do a taco bar. And for some reason, I had not I had not the many options for a taco bar. So my partner at the time was a chef, and he's still like he was the co-founder, and I was still besties. He he yeah. So as a chef, he had a full-time job. He was management at a private golf course in town. So I just said that, hey, off the side of his desk slash cook surface, can you just throw together this taco bar for me? And he totally did. This this is not some I just saw the opportunity because it made so much sense because of of my partner. So it was just really a facility. I saw his skill set. It wasn't There's very little that actually I value added. I value added to that. And I was raised not in an entrepreneurial way. I was actually raised again to skill express, like, achieve in other people's worlds,
Right.
and then get accolades for that achievement, and then chase the secure large corporate job or government, as my parents would call it, the golden rice bowl. Okay,
Right.
so that is the goal. That is the penultimate, like, that is just the goal of every conservative. Like, when you come here as an immigrant, like, there's a lot of fear, and security and status are just the things that, like, that's what you go to bed dreaming of, I think, for my parents. So I was raised for that. But upon unexpectedly making that first sale, I guess, to my own firm, something in me, I guess, kind of shifted, where it's like, oh, like, I got this feeling that I had never anticipated, which is that, I don't know how to describe it. Like, you have skin in the game. Like, that was your own thing, however small. It was
Right.
your own thing, and it was the moment when it's like I could interact with my environment. It
Yeah.
wasn't just a predetermined map or maze that someone had set out and I just run through it. It's like, wait, like, I just veered off for a moment, and I got this little taste of that. I don't know if it's freedom, but the taste of, maybe, yeah, something outside of, like, a Truman Show sort of an opportunity, like a
Yeah.
moment where you're like, wait, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
I could do something else, or something like that. And so after that, um, so yeah, the co-founder Darren, he had said that something changed in me even from that moment, where I became less hyper obsessed with, like, overachieving in work, because I think that's what it was. I was an overachiever. And so, I think then I started to divide my time, or my attention, my excess energy, I guess. There's a little bit of, hyperactivity, but so a little bit of that hyperactivity went towards, like, my own, my it's like exploring my own pursuits, instead of
Hmm.
just really doing well the task that was put in front of me.
Right. I love that because it's like what I love about being an entrepreneur, um, is you get to kind of what you visualize something and then you get to see it kind of manifest in real life. And so, like for me, we do beer festivals, but um, there's nothing more enjoyable than me getting to walk through the festival and seeing people enjoying themselves because and I will say when they're enjoying themselves, it's awesome. When I'm experimenting with something and I can see it's not quite working, and it's like, okay, shit, it's kind of like a glitch in my thought process. But that's
Yeah.
enjoyable is making something tangible that was previously just, kind of locked in your brain.
Yeah, and for some people, like maybe yourself, I don't know, that maybe came naturally to you, that you could turn this thing in your mind into, like, you can manifest that, you can make that into reality. But for me, it feels like the last several years has been me slowly kind of pushing the wall, right? And seeing, like,
Yeah.
how real is this? How far can I go? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And, like, yeah, and then every step being like, wait, that, like, something, and maybe that's just like, general, like, going through life and self-awareness, where the things that you didn't know were barriers
Yeah.
to you, you start pushing down, whether, like, they're external barriers that you just took for granted, or internal ones. You're like, wow, I totally subconsciously have been, that wounded inner child has been driving that, has
Yeah.
been driving the bus, and not just being along for the ride. Like, so this whole journey has been that, where you like putting down the barriers that you didn't even know were barriers,
Yeah.
and just seeing how real this is, and like, okay, like, and then just getting acclimated to that, because there is discomfort, I think, also that comes with that, as you take on more risk, as it becomes more real. But
Yeah.
there's also something liberating about that, where it's like, wait, I can do any of, like, like, as we were transitioning the business too, there's like a dropping of some fears while you pick up new ones. But some of them were like, okay, well, you know what, we created this, and so this could drive it into the ground, but if anyone deserves the right to drive this thing into the ground, it's
Yeah.
us.
I
We
love
will
that.
kill, yeah, we will kill this just as we brought it to life.
Yeah. And one of the things that you said, and like what what I found for myself is, as because no, none of this came naturally. I've had everything that I've done, I've had to kind of like forcefully go through barriers that I was scared to go through.
Yeah.
But what you realize is most of the barriers are internal. At least I've realized that
Mhm.
they haven't been external. What I've realized is when I've needed help, I've gotten help externally, right? There's always been people that are willing to support my ideas and my concepts. So I realized through my journey that most of what holds me back is internal. And so when you can get you can kind of get past that, that's when kind of real growth can happen. And then the idea that what you had said something about, I guess I put here limiting beliefs is you have a belief system and you don't like for me, I didn't even realize that my beliefs were limiting. I just thought they were beliefs. I thought they were
Mhm.
true, like the just almost like the laws of nature. And when you really start thinking about them, you realize they're not truths. They're just things that are kind of like holding you back, or they're the walls that kind of create your world. And when you just stop believing those, it's amazing how much further you can go.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have an example of one of your limiting beliefs that you like that comes to mind?
Um, so I always think of things as like A and B, like sort of like this was my life, and then like so. I'll give you an example just from a physical perspective. Is I grew up. I always went to hockey school in Penticton, and so when I would be in hockey school, I'd watch people training for triathlon for because there's the Penticton Ironman there, and I
Mm.
always thought it'd be really cool to do that. But in my brain, I was always like, well, I'm not really that good of a runner, especially back then. I can't swim, and my biking was kind of sketchy. So as I've gotten older, I do run a lot, I do bike, but it was never, I don't have the physical um, physique, I'll say, of a typical like triathlete, Ironman kind of person. So it was in my mind that I would never be able to do that. And then through just people that I've met and conversations that I've had, and the encouragement, I realized that I could physically do it. And so when I so last year I finally did complete it, and it was one of those, like, as soon as I crossed the finish line, just
Oh my gosh,
this
good
kind of
job.
like, yeah, but it was such a, and what was really cool is I had my brother there with me, and me and my brother always went to hockey school together. So for I was going to go by myself, and he at the kind of last minute was like, no, I'll come, I want to watch. So having him there and it being in Penticton, a lot of different cool memories. But it was just this understanding that I was very much physically capable of doing it. All of the restraints were in my mind, and
Mhm.
I was obviously scared. Um, and so with that, it just kind of was this realization that that you know what held me back was my idea that I couldn't do it. And so, um, and I have probably a million examples. I know I've written them down in my journal as I've kind of went through life,
Mhm.
but it's for me, it's a funny thing because the things that are holding most people back are internal. They're not external.
Yeah.
And
No, yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and what I loved about what you said is, and if anybody has the right to, drive this thing into the ground, it's me. It's that also, if you couple that with just that ability to be okay with failure, like that
Yeah.
seems like a pretty good recipe for for being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and just in general life, because I would say that entrepreneur is like it's actually like a way of living
Mm,
where yeah, you're trying to not um be set by these like you're told certain things such as that this is a triathlete, right, in your
yeah,
case.
yeah,
And so if you don't identify with that, you think that it's in a different cosmos from you.
yeah,
You simply weren't born for it,
yeah.
right? Okay, well that's not my path. But you don't realize that it's like it was just one door over for you.
Hmm.
Like that it was always so accessible, but you just don't realize because it's set out to be a totally different world than what you were raised into and grew up with and it got exposed to.
Yeah,
And so now that you've done that, I imagine that you can look at something else and say like, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to try that. Like
yeah,
because and I find that too that people they don't take on new we all don't take on new challenges because we think that it's such a fall from grace for us.
Mm-hmm.
that if I fail, I will hit rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that so I think that I've spectacularly failed in some things too. So then you realize that when you hit rock bottom, it's it's almost like you know, those movies where someone like drops and lands and like, oh, like, or like they stand up in water that they're drowning, it's like up to their knees, something like that. Where you're like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
rock bottom is actually like it was it's just a few steps from where I was.
Totally.
Like, yeah, like I don't actually have to be that afraid to fail because it's not this impossible journey back. It's, if anything, it's just like a course correction.
Totally.
And
Oh yeah, totally. Like you, that's exactly what it is. The thing too is when you do succeed, what you realize is you see that it's all it when you feel success, it's the accumulation of all the experience you've had, which is also a lot of the failures. Like when you're like, okay, I recognize being here because I've been close to here before, so I know if I just keep going, and so those failures are as valuable. They're just a they're such an important part of the process because it gives you perspective.
yeah, no, I embrace the failures have been, when I look back, and this is kind of almost trite and cliche now, but when I do look back, having gone through the failures and what I learned from them, they are like I cherish them.
Yeah,
Um, on like, yeah, the successes just feel like, wow, I can't believe I'm the successes actually are kind of defined by the failures, meaning that
yeah,
like I can't believe I made it through that, and that's what defines like some of my best successes, right? It's not that,
absolutely.
oh, that just worked out. It's like, no, I fought for every quarter inch of that, and
Yeah,
somehow it just all lined up. But yeah, I do, and so I do agree. I like, this is kind of the the, the energy that I'm kind of moving forward with lately has been that, okay, um, when I know that I'm the thing that's in the way, where I'm like, okay, all the numbers, all the logic points to this decision, but I just can't talk myself off the ledge
yeah,
because I know that I have fear, right?
yeah,
So then addressing the fear and then kind of stepping into the fear and through the fear. Uh, because then what I have found is that I kept having the same problems, the same hiccups, the same challenges. I would come up against the same thing. And then at some point lately, like when I did this facility move and this transition, it's like, okay, it's the same problems, same problems. And I just hit a point where I was like, I'm ready for new problems. I'm ready to at least have a new, I'm just tired of having the exact same set of problems. So I'm going to do this, which totally frightens me. And I'm scared shitless of it,
yeah,
right? Because this is a new stratosphere. My expenses are going up by orders of magnitude. The risk is higher. But at least I'm buying myself, or I'm going to allow myself a new set of life experiences and a new set of problems,
yeah,
right? Like I want to leave these ones behind, and I want to have new problems.
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah, I want to
yeah.
liberate myself.
Let's scale up to bigger problems. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that transition. So where did Zwick where did Zwick start from? And when you talk about like growing and scaling and stuff like that, maybe talk about what that journey was like.
So it started as an idea, just be like I had kind of hit that point in in-house counsel work where, or just employment in general, where it was I had a dream job. It was amazing. I could do whatever work I wanted. It was intellectually, academically super satisfying. Compensation more than I needed. Um, and but there's still something where I was thinking like, is um, is there more to me than this?
Hmm.
Is there more to life than this? And at the same time, my co-founder was ready to transition to catering business that he and I had built. And so we thought, okay, I have this idea. Let's just do this. And then when it fails, because there's no precedent for that, for this like standalone pretzel shop, it like had no business existing. So when it fails, we'll just sell everything, like sell all the assets and just go traveling. So, so that was
Not
plan
not
A.
not if it fails, but when it fails.
100% when it fails, we will. And that's the thing. I think it helps me. I plan for like, okay, when I anticipate when the failure manifests, this is
Yeah.
what I'll do. You know, and it really does help. But then, so the only issue with that is that plan A was the failure, and
Right.
so then since then we have spent all of our time and energy doing plan B, which is that, oh, what if it like is sustainable? What if it
Right.
works out?
Yeah.
What if it is, yeah. So went from that idea that had no precedent, and I think that's why there was all this social media attention early on, was because it had no business existing, right? Like, why, who would do this? It makes no sense. And but we just thought, okay, if we wanted a pretzel business, if there ought to be one that existed, what would be, how would it look? What would it offer? What would the feeling be? And I'd been traveling a lot at that time, and I just liked the divey holes in the wall and street food and accessibility, just really as affordable as possible, therefore as accessible to as many people as possible. I liked how democratic it was in the sense that, you know, you having more money doesn't get you any more. You know,
Right.
you get the same experience as anyone who can afford the $2 will get. And it doesn't get you ahead in line either. I was really stringent about that, where it's like no one buds. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care who you are. You know, so yeah, start off as that. It's just under 900 square feet, the shop, and that's including the storefront, all the prep space in the back. It was it was big enough that we thought at the time, but um, quickly it felt very busy for um, the the people waiting, like the lineups that would form outside, plus all the work that had to be done on the back, and then all the extra bodies that were needed to handle all the prep, because we did all the a lot of it was in-house, curing our own bacon in-house and candying, like all of it was like, we made our own soda syrups for the drinks that we started off. Like, it was insane. I don't know why. Again, like, there's this overachieving part still that's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So we did everything in-house. It got crammed, and then I thought that uh, we during the pandemic, our volume kind of doubled through the shop, and I felt that, and it was like, it was such a crush, you know. And it's funny, at one point I reflected that, wow, look, using only flour and water, I have manufactured unhappiness. You know, it was so busy and so demanding and physically and emotionally taxing, that, oh, I recognize, first of all, that's like, okay, this is, of all the jobs I've had and all the industries that I've been across, this is the being on this line is the hardest of them. And I
Yeah.
feel that in general. I feel that, like, for line cooks, like they actually have one of the hardest jobs in the universe. Their
Oh yeah.
timelines are by the minute, by the half minute. You know, everything comes up together at the same time. You get whited out, and there's no stress like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and your done, your state donenesses, like the demands of the quality plus the timelines are
Oh
exceed going to trial. They exceed like a project and construction site, like from my vantage point as in-house counsel, like going sideways. There's like, just as a daily stressor, not as like a, you know, a workplace accident, which is obviously acute, but like just as a daily
yeah.
stressor that you are to expect, you know, like one after another. Like, so anyways, I observed this. I was like, okay, I need something to I need a project with a higher margin, so that I can afford to get, like, pay the line cooks basically what they ought to be paid for their skill set and the stress they endure, right? So I'm like, okay, we need to make this more scalable, because we need, like, the stress of this, and just what the demands are such that there has to be some adjunct to this business. And so then
Right.
the hard so that, plus then also just the interest in, like, kind of getting a further reach maybe, but mainly actually just like a more scalable um, business with a bit of margin to support the retail work, was
Yeah.
what led to the hard pretzels. So we developed a hard pretzel line, and but we were developing that also in the same tiny shop. So we kept on just adding more. It felt like we had menu creep, so we had a giant menu, wholesale, retail at the front, and then also this new developing business of hard pretzels, all in that same storefront. Uh, and so there was a lot. And at some point, we started contraction. We started the whole 80/20 rule, which is like, okay, 20%, or, you know, we're doing, basically, like, we're doing too much,
Yeah.
because most of the impact is in 20% of what we're doing. We got to scale this back just for livability.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So then we started that, and so the revenue in some of those streams was growing such that I had to shut down. Like I just could not do it all. So and like like we got the Oilers at Rogers Place deal, the same, like everything was just compounding. So I
Hmm.
started shutting things down in order to basically my capacity was stretched so thin that I couldn't advance anything. I could only just like tread water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um it looked probably from the outside like a shop kind of expansion, then a contraction because we shut down the storefront. And then during this time, this hibernation phase, as it would appear to other people, that's when we got the larger facility going. And so now at least the hard pretzel side and actually the soft pretzel, the production in general is
Yeah.
we're kind of in the midst, but yeah, it's like scaled kind of.
That's awesome.
So
Good for you.
oh
How
well,
long did that transition take? Like how long would people have thought you were in hibernation for?
um, probably like 2 years. It's like 2 years. It was a longer time that because first of all, we're like DIYers, so like, and it's part of the experience, right? It's like I'm here for the whole thing. I want to live it all. I want to experience it. So I actually I don't really I know that these days things happen really quickly, right? That
Yeah.
you can get your funding and you can get your and just hire a whole team and hire your whole contractors and but it took me a bit longer because I was still doing it all. I was doing the production. I was doing the date. We're still running active businesses,
Yeah.
and then starting to try to do this facility build out, and all the businesses have been like that, where it's like, okay, you're running this existing thing that's already a beast, and then you're trying to grow something off the side of your desk where there is no capacity. There's no time to do what you need to do, let alone like things you would want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like 2 years, which I guess in these modern times is like maybe slow, but I could not have done anymore.
Right.
It was yeah, like physically, I like that was like between all the things that were that demanded the time, plus some small vestige, a little like glimmer of like living and personal life and trying to
Yeah.
develop some capacity for that and learn how to live outside work, which is also like a whole discussion as well for entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no kidding.
But so it's been a long transition. And some of these projects, like also at some point, I was like, past Maria really screwed us over. Like I took on a project that before I was like, okay, enough is enough. Like so, I just recently finished wrapping up like some projects I had taken up, and then so this next year, my goal is to just kind of give myself the gift of a job, which is just
Yeah.
to go in and not keep on trying to push it and grow
Right.
something else. Yeah.
So it seems to me that there would have been a steep learning curve here. One of the things, like you were saying, just as a product extension, going from like the soft pretzels, that would have been its own learning curve. But when you create the new facility and you're doing like a hard pretzel that's a packaged product that's available in grocery stores and stuff like that, how did you talk about like maybe like some of the research and development and how you came to kind of create that?
Okay, so I will say, so there's a difference, there's a definite difference in the the two worlds, the two products that are fundamentally like the production process is very different, but also the industry that exists right now. So right now, soft pretzels, there's not a lot of precedent and a lot of kind of intermediate automation tools available for scaling up soft pretzels. Right now, it's either you're doing it by hand, generally,
Yeah.
or you're going to buy into $1 million line, and then you're pumping out. You can pump out 2,000 an hour, something like that. So that one probably took even longer, is to try to find some way of scaling that up without unnecessary kind of, because I'm always hesitant to take on outside investing and also incur these massive capital expenditures just because I don't
Yeah.
want it to lock me in, right? Like you want the freedom as an entrepreneur to be able to walk away. And then I'm
Yeah.
feeling like if you invest like the millions of dollars, then you're going to be beholden to it. Like for
Yeah.
like whether it's because you have investors or because you yourself feel that that's just I made this investment, I have to at least see it through.
Yeah.
So I don't like how that would bind me emotionally. But anyways, hard pretzels is almost kind of easier because there's a precedent for it. Many
Right.
more people have done that and taken product and not even just pretzels, but like chips, any sort of packaged good. That's it's like the actual production of it and scaling up of it. There's already established protocols and there's already established paths.
Right.
So the challenge wasn't in the actual like yes, we had to recipe develop and also create our own flavors and profiles, which takes its time. We design our packaging, so all of that is just its usual due course. The challenge was probably learning the ropes of a totally different industry, because the prepackaged goods industry is vastly different than the retail food kind of like we were in retail food, like restaurants, basically. Restaurants versus prepackaged and manufacturing, completely different industries. And that industry is, whereas the restaurant industry, like it's, there, you're kind of, it's a grind. And so there's a collegiality in that. Like
Right.
everyone is grinding. Like my heart goes out to every operator of any restaurant or any like direct to consumer sort of, we're producing our own stuff in house, all the craft breweries. Like there's no need for any sort of like nasty competition because it is a grind for everyone, right? It's
Right.
just empathy and compassion all around. But for the flip side, the snack industry, it does feel different. It's like more, you have like these very large incumbents with a very large market share who have enjoyed their position for generations. And so it's an established market that's telling you, and it's like back to that limiting thought thing again, or limiting beliefs. There, you enter as any startup in this industry does, and they're telling you how it is and what you need to do
Right.
and how to make it. So as someone new in that, like you don't have I don't have the experience and the wherewithal to have the confidence to say like, no, I'm going to forge my own path, right? So I guess that was the bigger challenge is kind of entering a totally new industry that has more crystallized walls, it feels like, or those structures in place, the
Right.
obstacle course and the gauntlets, and then kind of finding my feet, like just even as a like having the confidence, like in a totally different industry where the stakes are higher, the investment's higher. So the finding of my feet has taken a little bit longer and trying to determine like, okay, where am I going to forge my own path? Where am I going to be comfortable not racing someone to the bottom,
Yeah.
in terms of like competing for, oh, I will push down my price and keep on pushing down, right? So still so I think um, that's that's been a challenge of not so much the production side because that's a matter of equipment and like established protocol, but just uh, finding my own way, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
So you made it in your notes. One thing that I thought was really interesting is you were talking about, I believe it was when your parents were retiring and kind of the realization that you were making. And I really agree with this. So um, let's talk about that for a second. So what was the realization that you had just watching your parents kind of go through that life transition?
Yeah, you don't have to redraw what I had put down in those notes,
Well,
but um, okay, so I'll just say like I even just witnessing the definitive sort of I'd say that our parents' generation has kind of defined a lot of the culture that we are inheriting, and so watching them retire was the concept of retirement, I'd say, comes from them. My concept of retirement comes from that
right.
generation, which
Yeah.
is that you do something and then you stop and then you get to live your life or whatever it is. But so I
Yeah.
grew up always hearing my dad in particular talk about, well, I'm going to quit, or when I retire, um, like things are going to be so great. And so,
Yeah.
but then I watched him retire or try to retire a few times, leave, right? Like, finally, free of the man. But then, give him a few days or weeks of restlessness, and then
Yeah.
he's out there looking for another job, right? So, and then, and like oscillating between those, right? The two, like as you were saying, like this whole of like when you're talking about limiting beliefs, all or none sort of false dichotomy of like work, no work, work, no work. And you see it a lot where people just bounce between these two extremes, not seeing the spectrum between them.
Hmm.
And so in looking at that, I think that I just, there was a lot of realizations, I think, at the time, which was, first of all, okay, this Rich cultivated this life that he thought was going to be waiting for him was it it just didn't magically apparate when he stopped doing what he was doing. Like he had spent his whole time doing this job that he did not I most of the time, like there were some jobs he loved, but most of the time spending most of the best times of the best days of the best years of his life giving it to a job that he wasn't really into or
Hmm.
actively disliked. And then but then being whether so tired or exhausted from that, not after that or simultaneous with that cultivating the life that he does want, right? Just
Right.
living like head down, thinking that kind of enduring the day to
Hmm.
day for the promise of like this future that he was going to love without actually building any of that future, right?
Yeah.
And in the
Yeah.
yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm taking a lot from this, and so uh, first of all, whatever future and like whatever it is that I want, whatever it is I imagine success to be or a good life to be, actually demands some action of me today.
Yeah.
And like it takes actually a lifetime to, because for me, I knew that, okay, I don't want to just do nothing because I witnessed what that looks like. And that's like running back into what, like, okay, like what I would like is something where I have some autonomy over my time, but still that's something that stimulates and where I have skin in the game so that I'm actually like really into it, but some freedom of schedule. And I realized that that was a lifetime of work from that point, that I was going
Hmm.
to have to build that. So I would have to, whatever that looked like, I'd have to first of all build it to the point or do something like there was so much where I have to first of all build my non-work life, but also build the job that I would want to have in
Hmm.
retirement.
100%. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, and I just agree with that so wholeheartedly, which is people have this idea that there's this magical new life that's waiting for them once they retire. But
Yeah.
like, if you want to travel when you retire, like, but you don't currently travel, the chances of you just
Yeah.
magically starting to travel, is just, it's not going to happen. If you want to, you know, camp every weekend when you retire, but you currently don't camp at all. Like
Yeah.
the life that you're building, you have to build a life that you want to maybe double down on when you're retired, but you can't,
Yeah.
that magical switch doesn't exist. And I think that's what the promise used to be, that grind this out, work's going to suck, but at the end of it, when you retire, you're going to get to do everything that you've always wanted to do. And but all of a sudden people look at themselves and they realize, I don't actually have any hobbies.
Yeah.
I don't know how to travel. Like, it could be that if you're married, you're you're incompatible. Like, you may not want to travel in the same way. And so you're learning that at 60 versus having learned and tweaked it along the way,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's optimization to be done.
Yeah.
That Yeah, like so they also say that that's the approach of entrepreneurship too, where people say that, okay, well, they give themselves this tight window. They say that, oh, I'll try running my own business, but if it doesn't work out in a year or a year and a half, then
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get a job again. But like you would have given maybe a decade to an employer or to
Yeah.
building a career, and you're gonna have to give yourself at least that same runway
Yeah.
in order to find your feet, learn from your mistakes, and you know come into your own in the world of or having your own business
Yeah.
or the overwhelming burden of the freedom of owning your own business, right, where no one's giving you instructions and there's no scapegoat, being totally accountable for your own decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
so I think also like I think that people when they say, actually you hear this a lot, that people are like, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, but I don't really believe that, just like the whole triathlon thing, like I like you just are not allowing yourself the same what it takes, right? Which is
yeah.
the same compassion, the same grace, and the same patience that you actually unknowingly give to your employer.
Hmm.
Like you endure a lot for others, but you're not willing to endure the same for yourself,
Yeah.
investing that time and energy into yourself. But yeah,
That's
the
really
that
interesting.
mhm,
I find that that happens in a lot of people's in different worlds. And I agree with you. You like the idea that an entrepreneur often doesn't give them cut themselves the same slack that they would cut, partners or people that work for them or what have you. In
mhm,
a totally unrelated world, but I was talking. My oldest daughter plays soccer, and I was talking to one of the soccer moms, and she was telling a story about herself, and the way that she was talking about herself was so like kind of self-deprecating, and I thought, you would never talk about your daughter like that. You would never talk about any like your husband like that.
yeah,
It's so weird that you would talk about yourself like that, and we
mhm.
allow ourselves to be so hard on ourselves in a way that we would never be to other people, and I find that that's a really strange phenomenon.
Yeah, I agree. And then also like, and this is just totally also in a different area, but I think that also as you get into someone's inner circle, that circle of vulnerability, like being someone's
Hmm.
intimate partner, then you start, then you get exposed to the treatment of like how they treat themselves,
Hmm.
which is like, and that's like the whole couple. Like this is like we're venturing to like couples counseling therapy
Yeah,
type thing, but
yeah, yeah,
that is where you get the real like image of like, wow, you speak to yourself this way.
yeah.
Like you are this hard on yourself, and these are the standards you like. Yeah, this is yeah. It is interesting how yeah we don't give ourselves the same latitude and not realizing
Hmm.
what we are willing to endure and give to others and sometimes complete strangers, right? Like
Hmm.
whether like reviews, Google reviews, right? Like how does that torment a business owner, and
Yeah.
how much do they contort around these around other people who have really nothing to lose by and then maybe had no thought putting into
Hmm.
like their words, but yet they can cut so deeply, some people.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But
it's funny you say it's like couples counseling, because I think that's the key to being an entrepreneur is you do have to you have to cut through the layers, and you have to be honest, and you have to kind of get into that, because being an entrepreneur isn't about like projecting a facade. It's about like you have to really really be honest with yourself, and you have to,
yeah,
so there is like this weird intimacy with being a, if you're going to choose to be an entrepreneur for the rest of your life, you have to be like, okay, let's have that honesty and that vulnerability.
yeah, and like really, like yeah, you're going to be told in 100 different ways every day like how much you suck,
Yeah.
right? Like the ego must be prepared for that, being like, and you're either gonna double down and do what you have to protect to not hear that,
Yeah.
right? And to not accept that, and to not take the constructive criticism, or like at least go on the curious journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're gonna double that, or you're gonna like, okay, I do. What does this mean? Like
Yeah.
you're gonna yeah, and then you really open up then you're really surfing, and you're on this like ride of like, okay, what does it, and you're kind of letting go of
Yeah.
you're like down to your fabric, right? And that is the journey, and then it becomes this whole enmeshment of just this is life, where
Yeah.
you're just constantly letting go and being like, hey, actually, oh, okay, tell me more. I didn't know that about myself. And okay, like, oh, I didn't know this about the world, but I just saw I let myself just experience that firsthand. Like going back to the retirement thing, I remember that I was chatting with someone I climb on occasion, and so I was chatting with someone in the climbing gym, and they're saying that um, he just wants more time right now, so he's going to take a few days off, like trying to get a better schedule, and then he'll worry about just work what he needs to work to maintain, and then he'll worry about finances, in a couple of years. He'll get himself back on track in a couple of years. And as we were chatting, we you kind of land on this realization that, wait, if you just do that in life,
Yeah.
you just do what makes you happy right now. And he already factoring in what you need to survive right now, which he said, okay, well, actually, I only need this many days a week. If you do that, then life is just about every day, making a decision between what you want to do, doing what you have to do in order to sustain that. And then there's never actually like a retirement point.
Right.
You know, there's never actually this like sudden cut. You don't ever actually have to face this, okay, now I have to get back to real life and a job, and because that is life. Like you're
Yeah.
actually just doing what you want to do and doing what you must in order to sustain that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I just wanted to, because it reminded me of that conversation where it's like, okay, the thought that it's like, okay, in the future, okay, I have to do this, so I'll do that in the future. Like the whole future planning sometimes really screws us over
Yeah.
in the sense that we think that we have to, like we deny like the voices, like our intuition in the present, thinking that we have to do something different in order to prepare for, like, or in order to kind of take care of future us or future our dependents. When I think that sometimes we're better served, maybe most of the time we're better served by actually like honing into that the moment, like the present of what do I actually want to do right now? What do we have to do in order to enable this? And you
Hmm.
just, yeah, keep doing that, or you have to facilitate this. I don't, and I think maybe that might be a good example also. Like if you're like, I think of raising kids, and like for my dad too, where like if he thought that he begrudgingly going to work every day in order to, you know, secure our future was better than demonstrating a life of fulfillment and
Yeah.
engagement and, you know, the contentment, or I don't want to say happiness, but like demonstrating that engagement in what he was doing. I don't
Hmm.
know if you can say that one is better than the other. I don't know if you could say that it I have to do this for the betterment of my children. I have to go to work, but meanwhile, like implicitly or expressly messaging to them every day that like I hate this and that this is
Yeah.
this is how, and like being and just like being kind of not present and kind of angry as a result of that,
Yeah.
you know, as opposed to just, you know, focus, you know, like, so I don't know, I think there's a lot of stories and a lot of narratives that we tell ourselves, that we could just keep breaking down. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I wanted to ask about your parents. So your parents, did they immigrate into Canada then?
They did, but separately. So they
Okay.
came here as students. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they immigrated in the Trudeau era, which is why they're like, yeah, Trudeau, like Pierre Trudeau, that is. But
Yeah.
so they're ever grateful to him. But they came in the 70s from Hong Kong
Okay.
by way of Canton. So yeah, so they immigrated, and then moved and met. They met in Calgary, and then they moved
Yeah.
together with family, yeah, to Edmonton or St.
Because
Albert.
I'm really curious about, and I've talked to quite a few people about this, but you know, when you talk about the way they saw the world and the things that they and the limiting beliefs that they would have had, I don't think they would have called any of them limiting beliefs. I think they would have called them just this is the way the world works and this is what we got to
Hmm.
do. But you know, there was a lot of pressure, I feel like, on that generation, especially people that immigrated from China, where it was, you know, there a lot of pressure to show outward success, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And so to
Hmm.
have, it's like, check these boxes, like to your point earlier about like my options were doctor, lawyer, like kind of
Yes.
thing. It's just
Yeah.
like, those are, you can be anything you want as long as it's in this, three or
Yeah.
four kind of things. And so there was this pressure um to succeed,
Hmm.
and this pressure to provide, obviously. And I think so for that, obviously we need to be grateful that they were able to provide, but it is also awesome to be able to observe that and to see that that isn't the only way. There are other ways, right? And so to understand there was a pressure on our parents to succeed, and there was cultural pressure, but also like, because I'm curious, how much do they support your your kind of veering off and becoming an entrepreneur when you were on course to be, a lawyer and stuff like that? So how much have they been able to see what you do, and do they support that, or are they still kind of going, what the hell, go back to being a lawyer?
No, they, in hindsight, there's always support to the point that anytime I make it, so every time I'm about to make a change, whether it was from the firm to in-house, in-house to business, and then even making changes within the business, every approach to a change, they have um, well, not so much my dad. My mom has like strongly resisted because you have a good thing, don't do
Mhm.
this, you can't, and it's only it's and you can see it's her fear, right? And it's the same
Mhm.
fear as like all of this is just childhood wounds, right? So they came from a place, my mom especially, she actually grew up with more poverty in their family, but yeah, very joyful, right? Like it was a happy family, but they they grew up with less, and the true threat, like true poverty, always just kind of looming, and also in that environment in Hong Kong, in China, there's a whole lineup of people behind you willing to take the opportunities that you're not going to take. So I think it's more of a, and I don't want to speak for the whole, but I'd say that my mom kind of embodies more of a culture of fear, which is
Mhm.
understandable. I think that fear really actually dominates a lot of what most people do.
Mhm.
So so yeah, so at every change in like that that I've kind of been considering, she will be the voice of fear, right?
Mhm.
It's like, don't do it. And then the change works out, right? Oh,
Mhm.
it's okay. But then if I'm going to make another change, don't do it. Like the
Yeah.
same fear where it's like, no, no, no. But she has not, like, because it's this like subconscious thing in her and she's not maybe aware of it, she hasn't seen the pattern, right? Of like
Yeah.
every time, mom,
Yeah.
there's a change. You will like sometimes like the vitriol like and like really you're tapping into someone's self-conscious, the vitriol coming out of her mouth is shocking, you know,
Yeah.
like how she expresses her, she becomes a different person, and that's the thing, you trigger someone and they're like a different human.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, so they there's a resistance to any change just because if we regard me as an extension of her and my story as like this lingering open-ended chapter in her book that she just desperately wants to put up on a shelf that ends happily ever after, right? As I'm sure any parent does. You like
Right.
there's some discomfort with your
Mhm.
kid's story not ending already happily ever, that you not knowing that they're going to be fine,
Yeah.
that they're yeah, that you like an anxiety that they're actually living in real time out there, this extension, they're like one of your nerves out there,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a part of you that's running amok and you have no control over
Yeah.
them, and yet they can, whatever happens to them, like it's almost like it happens tenfold to you because of that lack of control maybe, and
Yeah.
you can't mitigate that and you can't try to. So yeah, so they're supportive now, especially like as they get older, and maybe like they can't feel the same. The fear hormones are not like as strong in in
Yeah.
their their older bodies, so they're mellowing out. But I think that there's that um, I think it's a mellowing, and
Yeah.
yeah, as opposed to like okay, they're embracing that this is the path and this is the, you know, it's one of uncertainty. You know, they're she's uncomfortable. My mom is more uncomfortable with uncertainty.
Oh,
But
like
again,
she would have wanted you to just be a lawyer. So to your point, she could have written the final chapter and she lived happily ever after as a lawyer. And then that book is done. Like, yeah, you've kept this like book going on. And she's like, what the hell are you
yeah,
doing? Yeah.
yeah, so that she can sleep better, right? Like
Mhm,
she just
mhm.
desperately wants me to
Yeah.
stop making
Yeah.
changes so that
Yeah.
she knows that the book is done and that
Yeah.
everyone, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I totally sympathize, or I have so much compassion for parents and yourself, like where, yeah, you let go,
Yeah.
and that like that's like a whole lifetime of like having to remind and practice like this act of letting go when you're so vulnerable to, like by having kids you are so vulnerable
Yeah.
to just in general and to the world and the actions of like you have no idea what's happening, but yet you're something, you're yeah, you're making something so important to you um be subject to the kind of the actions of the world.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it is an interesting thing being yeah, being a parent myself. I mean, I would um I'm an entrepreneur and I love what I do, but I would rather if my kids weren't entrepreneurs, I would want them to have something safe and something predictable. So I can definitely empathize. I want to ask you, I know you're probably wanting to, actually take on your day, but I wanted to ask you because you do mention a little bit about mindfulness. And I'm not familiar. I haven't read a lot on Alan Watts, but you commented on him. I'm curious, as an entrepreneur, just as a human being, I guess we'll say, is what do you do to kind of maintain your health on a daily basis, whether that's physical health, mental health, spiritual health?
Mm, okay, so I'm only like now, right now, having come out of like a pretty intense scale up phase, and where I just kind of I I was not for like my mind just wasn't in self-care at all, or just or in
Hmm.
a lot like I tried my best to balance, but like I would like, maintain friendships and whatnot. But in terms of myself, I definitely felt it, like the stresses I embodied, right? And so coming out of it right now, I'm getting back into like I'm doing some daily climbs. So I'll go for climbs, which is it's a great workout because it doesn't really feel like a workout. And I don't, I think that's when, as I go through these, I think and it's not, I don't think it's through effort. I think I just developed maybe as a survival tactic. I'm very good at calling out or reaching out for help like, and not necessarily expecting anyone to actually be able to actually help me with a task at hand. But just so yeah, I will desperately like if I'm feeling really like emotionally like I will that's when I'm searching literature. I'm seeing like what out there can help resonate or resonates at that time with me,
Hmm.
just to bring some calm or like a salve to whatever angst it is that I'm
Hmm.
feeling. So I will, as a matter of like not even trying, but I just at those moments I look for the wisdom kind of
Hmm.
around me. I will stop and chat with the older caretaker in my in my apartment complex, because there is like he's a calming presence. You
Hmm.
know? Yeah, so I will seek out the calm that I want from like that and just that perspective. I think that okay,
Yeah.
at the end of it, it's like it'll pass. And
Yeah.
you know this is this is part of it, this is part of the path. You can you can make it I can make it easier for myself at any time. I can make different choices. So so physically, yeah, I'll make sure that I'm active, and
Yeah.
my job typically is already very active. So the physical health has mercifully, like I've actually probably taken my body for granted that it can do the things, and
Yeah.
it's kept up. Like I've been hand bombing pallets and loading like for many a year.
Yeah.
So the body can keep up. So I don't want to take it for granted, but I have been taking it for granted. But yes, I take care of that. Physically, it's different, but emotionally, yeah, I think that um, I kind of send out the tendrils looking for, yeah, any sort of wisdom and calm along the way to kind of buoy the spirits, and
Yeah.
just to give you, again, just enough to keep you. I think I mentioned this, like just to keep it, just to move on to the next stage,
Yeah.
right? You're just looking for the marathon where you're just that tiny glass of water, that thimble of water. That's all you need. And I think that that's been kind of the journey. It's like, and it has, what has also been surprising is that those little morsels of life and wisdom have come from unexpected sources, right? It's not, I don't always run to my parents. I almost never actually run to my parents, but I don't, there's not someone that because in this life, you might appreciate, it's very hard to find someone who has walked the same path,
Hmm.
or who has gone through the same challenges. You can cut up your day and cut up your challenges, and get micro sort of doses of mentorship from other people in certain specific aspects of the challenges that you're dealing with. But on a whole, it's hard to just feel like you're being scooped up in the arms of a giant and just like it's okay, like I understand and it'll be all right. Like
Right.
I don't think you don't have that luxury as an entrepreneur, where
Right.
you're following someone's path, and you have the assurance that first of all that every what you're doing has the approval, and your performance assessment is all exceeds expectations, and like you don't have those assurances. So yeah, as an entrepreneur, it's been a story of like these finding community, finding hope, finding support in just passing moments sometimes with strangers, right?
Hmm.
Where it's like you didn't have to say that to me, but like that kind thing that you said to me, but you did, and you have no idea how much that meant to me, like right now, for what I just went through today, even.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also, yeah, so and whether it's that or books. And yeah, there was that quote from Alan Watts about, and I don't know it. I just know that the feeling of it, which is that, oh yeah, the bark of an apple tree, the bark doesn't, there's a bark, there's a leaf. They don't ask like why they're not the bark and why they're not the leaf, but they're so like the tree cannot survive without them, those
Right.
pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thought, yeah, and just the thought that, okay, I I know I see things differently. I know I'm doing things differently, but as long as I'm doing the thing that I'm compelled to do, then I'm I'm comfortable with that. I know it has some part in this whole tapestry. I know that like it just brings some comfort to when you're kind of used to walking or having to continue walking.
Yeah.
And some days the burden is heavier, that kind of macheting your own way through the wilderness.
Hmm.
Yeah, you just kind of need, yeah, it's, I think that's it, where you're not gonna, you're not following a well-worn path. And so, um, yeah.
I love that. So looking at everything that you've done, uh, if you had to, would you do it all over again?
Yeah, no, this is life. This is, I can't imagine. I mean, if I had an extension of 100 years, obviously I'd keep doing differently, and every day
Yeah.
would be different after. But like my past so far, I am, I very seldom have regrets about what has happened, because you, again, like I was talking about you, that's that's the journey.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would, like, yeah, I mean, even the parts where like I was fearful and hesitant, yeah, and like all the employment time I valued, and I learned so much from that. um yeah.
Where do you see Zwick's in 5 years, and then where do you see just yourself personally in 5 years, or can you project that far into the future?
I typically can't, and I can't really, but personally I probably could, but for the business, I like I said, it's kind of like surfing, and most of the things that have happened, I like to say I've won on the river, right? The last two cards come up, I'm like, whoa, okay, that worked out, right? But I had already made the leap, planning for, okay, what's the catastrophic loss, and what does that look like, and how, like, I planned for the failure, I planned for the catastrophic loss, and so yeah, like a lot of things just worked out, and I wouldn't have even seen where we are right now. Like I was like, okay, well, current status quo isn't working, so it's got to change. So I'm just gonna start blindly walking towards the change.
Hmm.
And then this is what happened. And so I don't, I mean, maybe the transition will stop. Maybe I'll just have a job. Like maybe Zoe will be exactly in 5 years as it is today. That is one possibility. Another possibility is that, yeah, some opportunity like this afternoon, unexpected, comes up, and I start pursuing, and then past Maria's old habits of like chasing the new project, the new shiny thing, take over, and I blindly follow that again. And then, but personally, the goal was, and I was more conscious of this, that I want to be very, I just want to be careful about being aware that like this is enough. Like I'm good. I'm happy. I don't, there's no need to chase anymore. Or
Hmm.
like there's, like for most of it, like it, we had enough probably many years ago, or maybe a decade ago. Like I would just want to be very careful about why, if I am pursuing something, like why am I pursuing it? Am I, like, is it an old habit about like having to prove my worth, prove my value, prove, or even like chasing more more revenue? It's like, is that even needed? Like what is that? Is that functionally going to give me something?
Yeah.
Like investing my time. where, because like I was talking to various people about this mindless pursuit of money, even
Mm-hmm.
where like it's if we were to regard life as a game, typically the point, like the money that you collect is actually you use that in order to get something called like victory points in the game, right? It's very seldom actually a blind accumulation of money. It's like you're using that resource in order to get a fulfilling life, right? So it's just kind of keeping on trying to be aware of those questions and just not running the treadmill faster, which is especially in a new industry when people telling you that you have to be scaling more and more and more. And here's the next equipment, and how do you get AI to even grow you yourself further?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, why? Like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
if it's sustaining itself, if I'm happy, if the balance is good, if the balance is good, then I just want to be cautious of doing things blindly, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. This has been awesome. I really appreciate the conversation. Yeah, it's exactly um, why I started the podcast, is just getting into the minds of successful entrepreneurs. And I think, people who are maybe new to their entrepreneurial kind of journey, uh, they'll they need to hear stuff like this. So thanks for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I really appreciate the time.
Awesome. I'm gonna end record, but don't hang up. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.